So hi, I'm Jules Clay here with WSOU, and I'm here with Nick Brooks from It Dies Today. So hey, how are you? Just wanna
Doing great. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
thank you for taking time to have an interview with us. It means a lot.
Yeah, of course, of course.
All right, so recently you guys have released a new single last month called Son of Dawn, and have released another single last year called Buried by Black Clouds. Are there any plans for new music to come out soon?
Yeah, we're shooting for May of next year. So
Okay.
it's interesting because like people really just want to hear stuff from 20 years ago, but
Yeah.
which is it's fine. I'm glad people care enough to come out to shows and want to hear those songs. But it's fun getting to work on some new stuff, and yeah, we're hoping to put I'd say an album or an EP or something out in May. So.
Really? So speaking of like your older music, do you guys have a favorite song you like playing? I know a lot of fans love from your first album, but is there anything you particularly love playing?
Um, Yeah, I mean the stuff with like heavy breakdowns is always fun to watch people go
Mm,
crazy. So like we have a song called The Depravity Waltz. That one's a lot of
mm.
fun. But there's a song off our second album that we just kind of mixed back into the rotation called a Constant Reminder, which is a super fun song to sing personally, and I love the song, so that's a good one to play.
Yeah, so I saw you guys recently played Mayhem Fest, which is actually really cool. That's the lineup was so great, and it was so cool getting to know that you guys were on that. What was the experience like? Is there anything that really stood out to you being a part of a festival that big?
I mean, we've done stuff like that in the past, but it's been a
Hmm.
long time, you know. So
Yeah.
it was just crazy to have the opportunity. So shout out to Ash for putting us on there and everyone else involved. But it was really fun to see like old friends from 20 years ago. So like our trailer was right next to Unearth. Haven't seen those guys since the early 2000s. Throwdown was on there. Darkest Hour, just a bunch of bands that like we respect and admire and are lucky enough to be friends with, but just haven't seen in forever. So I think that was what was probably my favorite part.
Yeah, I saw a few years ago too, not a few years ago, obviously a long time ago in 2005, you guys played
Is
Ozfest, which is actually really cool.
Yeah,
Um, is there a favorite festival or tour you've been a part of, something big like that? Or-
probably Ozfest. I mean, that was insane. That lineup was super crazy, and like every other day, getting to see Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, as well as like all the bands on the second stage were pretty tight and like really cool, and just yeah, it was a great summer.
Okay, so that's actually really cool. I recently got into music, ironically, before I got this interview, so I thought it was really cool getting to look into you guys and actually getting to listen to you. So in your no, oh my God, sorry, wrong question.
Oh, good.
So your band was on a hiatus for a while, and what's it been like to come back and see like all the love come back to you from all the fans and all the reactions?
It's nuts. Like people, it's funny because like people that I work with will find out about it and be like, "Dude, what's that all about?" It's like, I don't know. It's been 20 years. 20 years ago, if anybody had said I'd be still like playing shows with the band, or any of us would, or anybody would care, we'd probably think you're joking. Because I just never anticipated it. But it's overwhelming, honestly,
Mhm.
like and super humbling to be able to get opportunities like we've had over the last year or so. So it's incredible. And just, my wife is super supportive, and like my kids are of the age where like they're like kind of cognizant of what's going on. Whereas 10 years ago they weren't, when we were doing our last shows. So it's like it's really funny to see them kind of get into it. And like I said, my wife came to Mayhem and has gone to went to Furnace Fest with us and stuff. So it's like it's definitely a different lens, but just
Mhm.
everyone's so like appreciative of all the opportunities we've been getting. So it's really cool.
Obviously you were a lot younger when you started the band. You guys started in high school.
Yeah.
And now obviously you have a whole family. What's the biggest difference between when you first started and now? Like, did you see this for yourself when you were 16, being on these big festivals, these big stages?
No, definitely not. I think that this is kind of a boring answer, but the thing that's changed the most is just technology. Um, like when we started touring, it was we've got an atlas, we've got an address, and like some haphazard MapQuest like directions that I printed out like before the tour in a binder. And like GPS alone is such a game changer. Like it's and just to have like, oh, I have my laptop in my hand at all times now.
Yeah.
Um, like tour managing and doing things like that, it's like it's so much easier now. And I would say just like even from a production standpoint, like we run in-ear monitors, and again, kind of a boring answer, but like to be able to actually hear what you're playing is bananas. So it's been really cool. I feel like I'm answering every question or like putting like a stamp on the end of it of everything is really cool. So that's gonna be my verbal tick for the interview today.
When you first started, were there any musicians or anybody that directly inspired you in your life to start this band, start this journey?
Yeah, I mean, this band started basically because of like me and Chris had been in a band previously that was like just hate breed and buried
Mm,
alive worship. And then we got kind of more into just like some of the more I mean those are bands that are essentially metal hardcore bands, but
yeah.
just got deeper into it and like went to some of the early Hellfests in Syracuse. And I'd say like that kind of jump started what we wanted this band to sound like. And then we got super into like Swedish melodic death metal, so like In
Okay.
Flames, At the Gates, Soilwork, Dark Tranquility, like you name it, like all those bands. So that really heavily influenced our early stuff too.
So what do you think now? Do you think inspires you? Is it kind of building off of what you've had, or is it just whatever kind of comes to mind you want to kind of emulate?
I don't know. I like Chapel Roan a lot. Like,
Love
uh,
her.
yeah, I don't know. We just Mike just writes, and Mike is a riffer, so it's
Hmm.
just kind of like if we're able to kind of take his stuff and just form it into a song, that's kind of what we do. So I don't know if there's anything necessarily that like inspires us. It's kind of like we don't want to go too far off the beaten path, but want
Hmm.
to obviously have a fresh take on some of the stuff that we've done. So
It's really interesting. So like with the songwriting approach, you said like Mike wrote mainly. Is there any other way you guys work together? Is it kind of just lyrics here? Oh, like this sounds good with this, or
I mean, it is relatively collaborative, but essentially like Michael demo stuff on his own, and
Mhm.
then me and him will work together on the song structures, and then like I'll go in and just have like a basic either vocal cadence or melody or whatever the case is, and we'll just kind of put a song together.
Really interesting. I've like hearing the different ways people put music together. It's always so different, and it kind of shows, I think. But it's
Yeah,
yeah.
we're trying to get back to basics and maybe just get
Hmm.
the five of us in a room and see what we put out. So we'll see if that works.
Hopefully. Let's see. So what do you think about the evolution of the genre you guys have been a part of? Because I think it's very different from what it started in the early 2000s to what it is now in 2024. What's your opinion about all of
I don't know. I'm not gonna have a positive one, so I'm not gonna say anything nasty. I'm not a
it?
like even early
Yeah.
2000s like metalcore, like I would say like mid 2000s metalcore. I'm not like I've been vocal in the past. Like I'm not a super big fan of it.
Mm.
I like metallic hardcore. I like hardcore. And then I like pop music and like alt country and stuff like that. Like I'm not super big into metalcore. I love a lot of those bands. I love a lot of those guys and gals and stuff, but it's just not my cup of tea at a certain point. So I'd say I'm probably pretty ignorant to anything that's happened after 2005, and that's just because I stopped touring then. So
No, I obviously it's very very different. So I don't blame you at all. Like I was thinking about it now, but you guys did a reunion like a 10-year anniversary 10-year anniversary show for your first album, the Cat of Choir. Are you planning on doing any other reunion albums, reunion tours, or like anything? Even though it's probably past a few dates, but
this is pretty much it in terms
mhm,
of I mean we did the 10-year thing 10 years ago, and
yeah.
and even then we didn't do like a full album play or anything. Just kind of celebrated it. That's kind of what we're doing now. We'll see where everybody's at in 2 years, and maybe we'll do a couple shows around Sirens or something like that, but I don't know. It's all kind of up in the air.
So is there anything exciting you have planned for the band? Anything you're most looking forward to do now with having a bigger audience?
I mean, the thing I'm most looking forward to is the show on Saturday at
Yeah.
Starland Ballroom, and seeing all those bands. Love all those bands on that bill. Um, can't wait for that. 18 Visions, Walls of Jericho. This is how. I know I'm sneaking in a plug, but
Go ahead.
This is how Too Pure to Die, Ender, and Ringworm. I'm super pumped to see. I haven't seen them in forever, so looking forward to that. Starland Ballroom Saturday, doors at 4. Other than that, we've got some stuff planned for 2025 that I can't talk about yet. But excited for that
Mhm.
and putting out some new music. So
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I've heard I'm excited to see about the show, and see all of it on your social media on your Instagram. So I want to talk a little bit about the hiatus and the reunion. What kind of made you guys realize you want to come back together as a band and start writing again after so much time apart?
I think we're just at points in our life where it made sense. And like our current drummer, John, I used to work with and ran into him at like a work event. And he's just like, Mike really wants to get back together and start writing with you again. I was like, oh, that's cool. I haven't talked to Mike in a couple of years. I'd love to. He's like, oh, he thought you wouldn't want to. I was like, no, like, that'd be fun. So he kind of made the connection back between me and Mike. Not that we had like bad blood. We just
Mhm.
we're living different lives, right? And then we started doing stuff and got the offer for Furnace Fest and went down and did that, had a blast, and got a couple more opportunities, and it's just kind of been snowballing over the last year, I'd say.
Does it feel this? You guys have still like the same chemistry when it comes to writing music and performing, or is it like a little different now because it's been a while?
No, it's exactly the same. It's still really goofy and bizarre and weird, in the best way possible. So
So, do you have a favorite memory from the band at all? Like anything from beginning to now? Because you guys have a long history, which is really interesting.
yeah, I'm sure there's a few. I've talked about this one in the past, but just
Hmm.
we when I was first graduated high school, that was like our first extensive touring experience where like we were gone all summer. And the first tour we did was kind of a disaster. And like we would advance the shows and then show up and the doors would be locked and couldn't get a hold of the promoter. And it was a mess. And the one, I think it was Detroit, and I ran into some of these guys at Furnace Fest. Like the show was done, but there was like 50 or 60 kids there. And the one guy was just like, yeah, come play my back deck. So like a caravan of the tour, and then like these 50 or 60 kids went to this guy's house and just had a like impromptu show in his backyard and sold merch and the whole nine. So that to me was like the coolest thing ever. So
No, that's really, I love that. It's nice to hear about like stuff from the beginning. I think
yeah,
it's really interesting how you guys formed in high school. I have friends who've done that. And I think it's insane your whole trajectory.
yeah.
Um, so do you have any like any fan interactions that stand out on top of that? Anything with meeting people who have listened to you for years?
Um, I'm relatively socially awkward, so like most of the interactions, like I try to be as friendly as possible. It's just
Hmm.
to me, like especially like praise, I have a hard time kind of processing. But like generally speaking, I think it's crazy when people like travel to come see us. Like the in Buffalo this past summer, there was a guy from Australia at the show. Like that to me is insane. I mean, I don't think he came to the States solely for our show, but regardless, like the guy traveled from Australia. So anytime people like travel and talk to us about that, like that kind of dedication to coming and seeing us is kind of wild to me. So that really sticks out to me. And I know there's a bunch of people traveling this weekend for the show, so it'll be cool to see.
No, that's really great. I think it's cool, especially when people connect to musicians that they love, and it's great that like people from Australia come to see you.
Yes, for
Um,
sure.
so are there any collaborations, any other bands you want to work with in the future? Anyone that you like from any genre, honestly?
Yes, but I'm not going to talk about it. Because I've put together my dream list of people I want to collaborate with,
Hmm.
and one of the goals for the thing that we're going to put out next is guest vocal spots from people that like we love. So we're hoping to put that together. So I don't want to talk about it, but yes, there's a bunch of people I want to work with, and kind of hoping to make that happen on this whatever this thing is that we put out. So
I hope that works out for you because that sounds really cool.
I hope so too. I think it'll be really cool. Yeah.
Like, what's it like now, kind of balancing like family life and tour life? It's must be interesting.
It's like I said, it's cool because my kids are kind of cognizant of everything. luckily, like my wife is incredible and holds everything down.
Mhm.
So she just walked by and gave a thumbs up. Uh, but yeah, without her and her support, it'd be impossible. But it's fun. Like the kids haven't come to a show yet. I don't. They're still a little too young, and I curse way too much. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. They might come to something in the fall, in the spring that we're doing. So,
Okay.
um, but it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a lot more tiring.
Mhm.
Because there's no real downtime, even though it's all downtime when you're playing a show, but it's like it's still kind of a grind, even just doing a weekend or whatever the case, and then Monday you're back at work and back to reality, taking care of kids and doing that whole thing. So definitely more tiring.
It must be interesting when people you see in your daily life kind of realize what you do with music. That must be interesting.
It was I was on a work call the other day, and granted it was a company in Buffalo, so it was not that far of a stretch. But the guy was
Hmm.
like, "Wait, Nick Brooks, like you a musician?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, yeah." And I was on with like several other people from my work, and I was like, "Oh God." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then he's like, "I know Chris Capelli from like years ago, and this, that, and the other." I was like, "Oh, well, that's great. It's nice to meet you again." He's like, "Yeah, we met like 20 years ago." I was like, "Okay." Well, back to technology sales. Like, let's go. Like, it was funny.
I can't even imagine it. It feels like a little Hannah Montana moment where it's one day trying to do regular work and then it's oh you played a giant festival with.
It's super funny. So
So looking back on your history, is there anything you would change? Any other decisions you'd make different?
yeah, there's probably a billion,
Yeah,
honestly. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's probably a lot I would change, and but at the
yeah,
end of the day, there isn't. So yeah, I look back at things and regret some of the decisions that we made as a band, and especially like a lot of the business decisions that we made. But everything happens for a reason. It put you on a certain trajectory to get to a certain point in your life, and I think all of us are pretty happy with where we're at as a band and as humans. So it all worked out.
so honestly, I think your whole story is really inspiring to me because I'm obviously closer to how young you were when you started. I'm 19. And is there any message you have for young musicians who want to get into the scene, get into being a proper musician instead of just like people playing in their mom's basement?
Yeah, I've got a bunch. Number one, go to shows. Go to all of the shows. Go to mixed bill shows, metalcore shows, hardcore shows. Support your local bands. Because no one's going to care about you locally, especially if you're not
Hmm.
supporting everyone else. So that's number one. Number two, be kind and be professional. Like if you're a jerk to everybody or if you have an ego, no one's going to respect you. And if you're unprofessional, you're not going to get booked on bigger shows, period. Which means be on time, uh, be courteous, be thankful. It's pretty easy to just fall into a routine of being a jerk all the time and or just having an ego because I don't know, you drew however many people to a show, but I think those things are probably the most important for younger bands and kind of just like respecting people's boundaries and respecting the venue, the promoter, etc. So there's a lot. But it's pretty easy to just be nice and go to shows. Like that's going to get you far. Um, so there, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. It's great. So with a little bit talking more about your music, with the sound, especially how it is today, how did you kind of figure out that this is besides basing it off of Hatebreed and the other bands you look up to, is there any other way you've decided this is what I want us to sound like, this is what we should?
Um, yeah, I don't know. We just kind of fell into playing this
Yeah.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think early on we had a couple songs that were kind of leaning in the direction we're in now, and then we got to a point where we kind of just wanted to spice it up and throw a little bit more melody in certain places and have um, more like I don't want to say pop sensibilities, but when you think about pop songwriting and then you take a look at the way our songs are structured, that's kind of what it comes down to. Is like it's really hard for me as a listener to sit there and listen to a band that has like 4,000 different parts crammed into a
Mm-hmm.
song that don't really repeat. So like I'm a big proprietor of saying like let's have hooks like and memorable parts and structure the songs that way.
So do you think like you're also trying to, yeah, sorry, you're being more organized than you were when you were younger? When you were younger, it was just like trying to figure it out, and now it's like you have a kind of a method to the madness.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, past like the EP we put out, that was the approach, was saying like
Hmm.
making a concerted effort to actually like write songs as opposed to just putting a bunch of parts together. Because the EP we put out when we were like 17 or whatever, that's
Hmm.
just a million parts crammed into
Yeah.
5 different songs. So
Yeah, it's so I read somewhere that you guys actually got your band name from another song with the same
yes.
name. Uh I'm really interested. How did that make like click in your head and realize, oh, I want this name. I want this to be us. Because I think it's
Um,
kind of cool.
so we had a show booked, we didn't have a name,
Mhm.
and there was a couple names floating around, and then Chris was listening to Adamantium, which is the band. Actually, I believe Keith, who plays guitar in 18 Visions, sang for Adamantium or played guitar in Adamantium. But and they were like, "Yeah, that's cool. I don't know. Let's go with that." That was literally it. Not a very interesting story, just and actually, we had our first guitar player quit over it. He's like, I won't be in a band called that. I'm like, okay. So
That's interesting. I mean,
he's like,
I
there's too
think
many. He had a point. He had a fair point.
yeah.
He's like, there's too many bands with the word die in it. I was like, yeah, but it's cool. So now
I mean,
looking back, he was right.
yeah. I mean, do you regret it being It Dies Today? I mean, I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I feel like it fits.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the name, but it's fine.
I mean, people know you really well by that name now, so I think
Yeah, nothing we could do about it.
it's um. So, so you obviously have a tour coming up. You were mentioning with new music. Is there any place you want to go to? Any place you've never been to that you want to play at? Because I think tours are kind of cool, and I know you guys are from Buffalo, so obviously you played a lot in New York. But
Um, I mean, we did Southern California last or like a week or two ago. I really want to play there. I'd like to go back there and do like some smaller shows there.
hmm.
Um, Sorry, I'm getting
Don't
a
worry about
call.
it.
So we're also preparing to leave, so everybody's calling me.
Oh,
Um,
don't worry about it. It's
you're
fine.
good. I'd like to go back to Southern California and do some smaller shows.
Hmm.
Other than that, not really. I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to be able to tour everywhere is the
Hmm.
right answer. To be
Yeah.
honest, I don't know how feasible that is. So
So do you prefer like this? You prefer the smaller shows over like the big crowds, large venues?
I like them both. I think
Okay.
there's something to be said about both. It's a different kind of experience when you're packed in a small room. They tend to get a little crazier than, like being separated by a 15-foot barrier and all that. So it's a different type of show for sure.
It's definitely probably really jarring. But a little bit about this weekend coming up because we're actually pretty close there. We do a lot of shows with Starlin. Is there anything you like you're excited for most? Obviously, I know the lineup you mentioned earlier, and just kind of playing again. Was there anything about being in New Jersey you're excited for?
Excited to see Josh from Trustkill and a bunch of people I haven't seen in forever.
Yeah.
Excited to see all the bands. I haven't played Starland since 2006. So pumped to go to that venue again. It's a nice, cool room. Um, but yeah, just pumped for the show in general. I think we put together a really great lineup between Starland, our booking agent, and Josh, and it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, I can't wait to see all of it, and I wish you guys a lot of luck. I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to talk to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And it was so nice meeting you, and I wish you all the luck this weekend.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Have a
All right,
great
take care.
day.